Well, this is Dateline News and Conversation. You're going to want to pay attention to tonight's show and follow it from the beginning to the end. If you want to know what the heck is going on in the Middle East, you need to pay attention. My guest tonight is a good friend. We go back. All right, here we go. I don't know what happened here, but this is where we're going to pick it up. My guest tonight is Dean Henderson. He's a world renowned political analyst, historian, and author of 7 books, including his bestseller, Big Oil and Their Bankers in the Persian Gulf. I told you, if you want to know what's going on in the Middle East and the Persian Gulf, you want to watch this show. Now, Dean was among the early truth tellers to be ghosted and deplatformed by social media giants. His original Left Hook blog, with millions of views and thousands of subscribers, was permanently deleted by devious forces in 2014 and again in 2019. Despite decades of threats and harassment, Dean has never wavered from his lifelong commitment to reveal the evils of the worldwide oligarchy. After a 3-year hiatus, Dean Henderson Left Hook returns to the web on his Substack, complete with original archives, new interviews, and articles featuring Dean's biting insight into the global workings of the bloodline crown elite. Dean's 7th book and latest book, Royal Bloodline Wetiko and the Great Remembering, which dives deep into the history of the royal Anunnaki bloodline while drawing on ancient Lakota culture to remind us who we are and to keep us looking towards the future for the great remembering unfolding before our eyes. Dean Henderson, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Regis. Good to
Well,
see you.
Well, I can't tell you how good it is to see you and to have this conversation tonight. I'm going to post several times across our interview tonight your new Substack channel, deanhenderson.substack.com. I'm encouraging everybody to go there and subscribe. You're going to get content. You're going to get analysis you will not get anywhere else. Now, I gave that lengthy introduction and highlighting Dean's first book, first published in 2005. The second edition came out in 2008, and the third edition in 2010. This is a must read for anybody that wants to know what's happening in our world and who controls it. Now, Dean, what you've been posting lately in your news feed are chapters from this book, Big Oil uh, and the Eight Families. I want to have you tonight, and I want to try to sharpen the focus, especially on the three chapters, chapter 17, 18, and 19. The title, the title of chapter 17 is Caspian Sea Oil Grab, and it's titled, It's the Oil, Stupid. Chapter 18, The International Bankers. Who's talking about that these days? And chapter 19, we'll finish with that one. Dean, the Eight Families, the House of Morgan, Rockefeller, Rothschild, Freemasons, Bank of the U.S., the Knights Round Table, the Illuminati, and the Federal Reserve. Dean, this is so important for people to understand not only what's going on in the Middle East, but who is controlling all of the levers of power, money, and influence. Dean, take it away. Go wherever you want with this. I may jump in to ask for clarification, but this is going to be one of the most important conversations anyone could have today.
Yeah, I mean, it's all. I guess it's Big Oil and the Bankers is it was my first book. I know, and I did it as a master's thesis initially. University of Montana. I got a master's in environmental studies, and it was a 144-page master's thesis titled "The Gulf Cooperation Council: A Regional Resource Security State for the Regime of International Capital Accumulation." And
Dean, if I could ask you to speak up just a little bit louder,
sure.
Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, I did the Big Oil book. It's initially a master's thesis titled "Gulf Cooperation Council, a regional resource security state for the regime of international capital accumulation," or RICA, which is kind of a word play on RICO, because RICO statutes is what you prosecute mobsters under, and these are mobsters we're dealing with. So it's oil companies. So you find out, okay, doing the research for the thesis, who owns the oil companies, and then you kind of want to know who owns the stock in those oil companies, and you find out there's these certain banks, and then you find out who owns these banks, and then you query the comptroller of currency and Department of Treasury and Federal Reserve and others as to the biggest bank holding companies in the United States and the world. And my request was returned as a Freedom of Information Act request. In other words, they won't tell you. And so then you find out, and then you find out the families who own those banks. And then this just kind of been my whole life is tracking down kind of the shareholders of the planet, if you will. So currently that's BlackRock and Vanguard, which is the crown money. It's just giant sloshing pool of money that's offshore. It can't be detected. And it's the royal families, which is a single bloodline, and their minions that help them and are knighted, like Bill Gates and whoever, Elon Musk, and the miniature creeps that they project as the richest people in the world, but they're just basically their wealth is nothing compared to the wealth of the oil company owners, for example, which is the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds by and large, and others in that royal family bloodline, dominion. But BlackRock and Vanguard, if you Google Fortune 500 companies, anyone can do this, and you'll find out that Vanguard and BlackRock are the top five shareholders, and generally they're the first and second biggest shareholders of every single Fortune 500 company. So go ahead and check that out. Verify that today, everyone. You should. And then you have to find out who BlackRock and Vanguard is, and then eventually you'll find out that Vanguard owns BlackRock, and that completely, 100%, and that BlackRock and that is public, so you can see that. But Vanguard, you can't really find out who owns that because it's private, and so that's where it sets. Kind of like it's hard to find the owners of Cargill, because Cargill, the world's biggest grain company, which traffics 50% of the global grain. I mean, moves it around 50%. That's a little bit of clout. So they can set a ship of wheat out in the Caribbean and just say, we don't have that. And the price of wheat goes to $8 a bushel, you know what I mean? Or whatever. Most ships on the Mississippi River of any company, Cargill, you know, a fleet of tankers and haulers and refrigerator boats bigger than the U.S. Navy, Cargill. You ever heard of that? No, most people haven't. Cargill and Macmillan family, private company, Minneapolis. Can't find out much about that either. But Dan Morgan wrote an excellent book called Merchants of Grain, which everyone should read, about all of these private grain cartel people, including the Continental Grain Dynasty, the Freeburg family, the French Freeburgs, including the Bunge family and the Borns, the Argentinians, Swiss, the Andres, the known Archer Daniels Midland, and on and on and on. It's all cartels. And so this book set me upon this course of going after the cartels, dissecting them, who owns them, and tracking it down. And it turns out that there's one single royal bloodline that pretty much owns everything. Regis, as crazy and oversimplified as that sounds.
Let me ask you this, because I want to sharpen the focus on what I think is so important that's happening in the world today. You posted an excerpt from Big Oil and their bankers in the Persian Gulf, chapter 17, Caspian Sea oil grab. People don't really understand what you detailed in that chapter. You talked about the Soviet Union and the collapse of the Soviet Union. President Mikhail Gorbachev and his perestroika.
It was no accident, right? It was no accident. Regis.
The show is yours. Tell me how the Russians and what happened with perestroika plays into what the heck is going on today.
Right, because the Berlin Wall came down, and it wasn't like an accident. It happened because Reagan and the Pope at that time, who was really right wing, got together, and the Polish solidarity movement was a big part of that, Lech Walesa and all that, and there's fake strikes in Gdansk with the shipbuilders. Radio Free Europe was a huge part of it. There's a several pronged approach to bringing it, and Gorbachev was there, and then Yeltsin was there to pretty much be the manager for the IMF, the drunken manager, where fraud was rampant, and because he was it's just a free for all, and Harvard went in there with the Goldman Sachs, and they tried to privatize the entire Soviet. Of course, first they crashed the later they crashed the currency. I should say later they crashed currency in 1997, and that was a whole nother round of privatization attempts to privatize Russia, to steal the resources. I think one of the things I mentioned in the book is how the assets of the Four Horsemen of Oil, which is Royal Dutch Shell, British Petroleum, Amoco, Chevron, Texaco, and Exxon Mobil. And I call them that because those are the companies that merged and became those four. And it's important to remember Amoco, for example, now it's owned by British Petroleum. So it's important to know that. And I can tell you who owned, before that, who owned Amoco, because Amoco was Standard Oil Indiana, for example. And, Exxon was Standard Oil in New Jersey, for example. And Mobil was Standard Oil in New York, for example. And Chevron was Standard Oil of California, for example. You see. And that was all the Rockefeller cartel, the Standard Oil Trust, which supposedly was broken up. But what in fact happened was it got stronger because they were able to form all these different shell, whatever. And this is the real key to the whole thing, is this international financial system that, allows these offshore banking things and, this trafficking of different things with money, whether it's money or body parts or drugs or whatever the Ukrainians are up to. It's pretty much Ukraine does almost all of that and more. Ukraine's like Israel Junior, right? So that's what it is. It's Israel Junior. So that's just to be clear. If you want to know what Ukraine is, what their thing in the world is, why they exist, why they're, a bunch of creeps, they're Israel Junior. They're a strategic place. Khazars used to live there, all that. And they're trafficking the shit out of everything. And they're corrupt as hell. And the CIA has just, I remember when there was cheap tickets to Ukraine back in the 90s, and I was like, why is that? I wonder. And Bill Clinton was passing out USAID checks to Ukraine like it was perfumed water. And oh yeah, they set it all up. And Cargill actually was there, by the way, and is there, by the way, because Ukraine is the breadbasket of the Eastern Hemisphere. And Cargill, yes, is, and in fact, Daniel Anschutz was the World Trade Organization CEO, and he was the former CEO of Cargill, and then he went and became the CEO of the WTO. And during that time is when a lot of this USAID stuff was going on, because USAID just serves Cargill. I mean, you understand? It's just like the U.S. Department of Energy serves Exxon. You understand? It's like Commerce serves J.P. Morgan Chase. You understand? It's like it's captured. It's all gone. It's fascist. This country is a fascist country. We don't have a democracy. We have cartels that control the economy, that rig the elections however they want it, with electronic voting machines from Dominion and other crown-controlled corporations, where Mark Carney, and Lord Malik Brown, who's now the new George Soros, sit on the board, and all these voting machines, electronic voting. It's so easy. So wake up, people. It's just, and anyway, that whole chapter is about how they pretty much ransacked, Russia and tried to put it under their thumb. And this, I think, is why Russian people are so aware of the real politic in the world, compared to Americans who have never had their currency attacked, for example, like this. But hey, it could happen any day. And that's the other thing. So.
Dean, I have to ask you, because everybody that watches this show knows that I'm living in Russia, coming to you live from Yalta in the Crimea. And everybody knows that because of what Yeltsin did, and Gorbachev opened the gates to that with his perestroika and his glasnost, Yeltsin basically allowed for not just oil, but Russia's major assets to be privatized.
Yep.
And this exists today. People know this. You have Russian Lukoil, which is 20% owned by BP, Amoco, Credit Suisse, Boston. You're mentioning that.
Last I checked, yeah.
This is the question that I have.
Yeah. But see this,
Dean,
yeah. See,
everybody is wondering,
yeah,
who's controlling what. And I have to ask you, in your opinion, and you covered this in this book, in chapter 17, how much control do the Four Horsemen, do the big bankers still have over Russia and Russia's primarily gas and oil resources? How much of that do they control? I think
really
this
good.
is
Yeah. No, it's a really good question. And I think your viewers will be happy to hear that not nearly as much as they did when I finished the third edition of this book. Not nearly as much, because actually Putin's gone after, and I think, as my understanding is, kicked out ExxonMobil from these Trans-Siberian big projects, Sakhalin 1 and Sakhalin 2. Maybe the answer to that, and also he went after Boris Berezovsky. He went after what was the other oligarch in the oil company, and there was a privatization attempt. Yukos, remember Yukos? Yeah, Yukos. He kind of went after those shell kind of private companies that were being controlled by these dual Israeli citizens, these dual Israeli Russian citizens. And these are the oligarchs. It's the same people. A lot of these guys just ran to Ukraine. Okay, most of them ended up running to Ukraine, hiding and being there, and still are, including Mikhail Friedman, who's of Alpha Bank, who's worked with Dick Cheney to train up the Kosovar Liberation Army and get them the drugs they needed coming through from Afghanistan, so that we would be forced to buy our opium from the Commonwealth, which we are as the United States of America. We have to buy our opium regis from the Commonwealth countries. I don't know if you knew that or not, but that's actually in the United Nations Charter of 1947. So we're still ahead. We're still just a colony as well of the Crown, East India Company. The new East India Company is BlackRock, Vanguard, whatever. It's just a new way to do it. It's instead of having like overt slavery, where the Royal Africa Company and King James, who wrote the Bible, is the only shareholder of the Royal African Company, with the biggest slave holding company in the world. And then the guy writes the Bible. That's a credibility gap there. But now it's just more like the IMF, World Bank. You just rig the numbers at the computers, and you just, here's some money, and you pay off some politicians, and they get rich, and they do corrupt things, and your corporations then go to those countries and profit. Whether it's your cement companies or your oil companies or your computer, whatever, and they go to the Philippines or they go to Bangladesh, and they get the contracts from the USAID, and they get the contracts from the World Bank and IMF, and you see how it works. And meanwhile, you privatize the electricity grid, you privatize everything, the services for the people, and you give it over again to Bechtel. Maybe in the case of Bolivia, they privatize the water, give it to Bechtel. Well, the Bolivians have their say there, and that's all we can do. But Americans, unfortunately, so far from that. We really need a dramatic turn to the left here, because the Democrats have ceded ground and gone to the right, and it's just like you really have this fascist party, the Republicans, and this kind of crypto fascist party, the Democrats, and they all want to go to war. The Democrats want to fight Russia. They're big tough people, and they want to fight Russia, and the Republicans are big tough people, and they want to fight Iran. But everyone wants to fight because we're big tough people here, and we're insecure. I don't know what it is. It's like, what the fuck's the problem here? Like, people just want to fight. And I really still just don't understand it. Like, we want to feel superior and exceptional and fight. And it really is kind of creeping down into the culture. People are very disagreeable here right now. It's just, I find, not everyone, you find pockets of good energy, but wow, it's just, the culture is in decline. And it really feels like everyone is just wanting to fight. And I read this morning, we have the most, it's not just the U.S., because we have the most wars right now, brush fire wars on the planet right now that we've had in the history of the planet. Little skirmishes, and it's I don't know, is it something in the stars, but it's a problem. And the answer is knowledge, and the answer is unity. And the way we get unity is we tell people who runs the show, and then we provide a solution that has to come from the left. It just has to. It has to be a socialist, communist, Marxist, anarchist answer of some kind that makes things public again, and goes after cartels, and the people stand up and take over shit and have had enough, and stand up for the rich and fucking have had enough, Regis.
Yeah. I want to end on that note, Dean. I want to end on that note, but I want to press you a little bit, because I think it's important for me and for people to understand how much control do the international bankers, do big oil, how much control do you think they have over Russia? Because Russia has got enormous gas and
that's
oil.
What I was, yeah, that's what I was getting at. I think it's better than it was, Regis. And I do think that, that it was a low point. Obviously, Yeltsin and Perestroika and Gorbachev and all that was a low point. And I really do think, I like Putin. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've heard him speak. I've listened to his speeches, his long rambling speeches that translated, and he makes a lot of sense to me. What he says, he talks about history. He talks about things in kind of a Marxist-Leninist framework. To me, and he doesn't really say that, and the media doesn't seem to pick up on that, which is really weird. But I just think people are so stupid nowadays; they don't even know what that means. Probably, they don't even know. Like, I don't know. It's really weird because they've washed all the political theory out of the culture, of the world culture. Well, they've homogenized the world culture with this wokey stuff, which isn't, it's like this fake progressive thing. And it leaves out economics conveniently. It leaves out class. It leaves out a class analysis conveniently, right? So it's not a threat, which is why BlackRock funds it all, the ESGs and all that, because it's not a threat. You have to talk about class to change anything. And that's what Gaddafi did, and that's what the Iranians are doing right now. And I feel like that's what Putin does. And the Chinese more so, I don't know, they're just, for a longest time, it was their economic thing only. But now I actually feel Xi Jinping is also more of a communist than previous prime ministers. For going all the way back to Mao, probably I'd have to say, at least Chao Enlai, at least go back to Chao Enlai to find a prime minister of China who was as left wing as and as nationalistic as this guy. So I think it's real. I think it's genuine. I think the BRICS is a genuine attempt to stand up against neocolonialism, colonialism, feudalism, interstellar parasitism, Anunnaki. Yeah. Anyway, however you define it, whatever you call it, the oppression of the people, the bondage that we live in, the slavery that we still suffer under as a planet, as a people, that we haven't succeeded in liberating ourselves from as of yet. And so we need help. And the way I look at the Iranians are doing a great deal to help us right now because
Yeah.
we don't have them. Me and you don't have the guns. They took our, the people of the world, we don't have we don't have the political ability in the United States because both parties are sewed up. And we tried Bernie and they shot us in the head twice on Bernie Sanders, boom, and knocked us out again. And we're sick and tired. Okay. So the Iranians come along with guns and we're like, I'm thrilled. I'm happy right now. I'm very optimistic about the world right now, but it's only because the Iranians are winning this war in a big way. And
I wanted
Iranians, but I look at the axis of resistance. I look at the way the Israelis are being exposed, where the U.S. is being exposed, Trump's being exposed, where the Europeans are being exposed, where we might actually break with NATO. Great. There's some things coming, but the Iranians need to continue pounding Israel and pounding this evil empire of Epstein class people. And then we need to continue pounding them with what we do with words, which are more powerful than weapons of war, even if you do it right. And we need to work together and realize we're a unified electricity that's had it, and with the bears and the sharks and all the animals who've had it, and we've had it, and then we need to stand up because there's many of us, millions and billions of us, and there's people of them, and all we have to do is stand up, and it's over, people. But if you're going to live on your knees, it'll never be over. Living in fear or living in love, take your pick. Because that's all it is.
We're going to end with this. But before we do, I need to have you clarify some more things, okay? In terms of who's controlling the levers and maybe who's losing control, which is what you're alluding to. I appreciated what you said about Putin. I agree with you. I think Putin has had I wouldn't want his job for any money in the world. These oligarchs that took possession of Russia's assets that belong to the people still control and wield a great deal of power in any country, politically, but because of the economy. They're incredibly powerful. What I want to transition to, Dean, we've talked about this before, but you're about one of the only people that keeps hammering about this. And again, I have to tell people to get this book, Big Oil and the Four Horsemen. It ought to be mandatory reading for everybody in any college, any university, and it ought to be mandatory. Well, you can't mandate that people out there who are activists read it, but it ought to be a #1 bestseller. You should have got a Pulitzer Prize for this. What I want to get at, Dean, now is because you've mentioned it several times. You've mentioned the Crown. You've mentioned international bankers. Now, I know what you're going to go into, but I have to ask you to explain it again.
Yeah.
The Crown.
Yeah.
What do you mean by the Crown? And what do you mean by it is all centered in the city of London?
Yeah.
That's where I want to go with this. And I also want you to keep in mind from where I'm coming, how does Russia fit into that? Is Russia fighting it? Russia's still tied into many of these international organizations. So the Crown, the city of London, and that's my point, who are these?
Yeah.
Who are these people?
Yeah, well, the Crown, the word has to come from the notion that there's, there's these entitled people who are special that get to wear these crowns, right? And how do you get to wear the crown? Well, apparently you have this certain kind of blood, so you have to go, well, that's interesting. So that concept was first employed or seen or witnessed on this earth in Samaria. A fellow named King Sargon, they called him, and that's a fact. And he was the first king on the earth. There were no kings, queens, no notion of that, no idea, concept. It's all just foreign notion where somebody would actually say they're better than others because they have a certain kind of blood, and then they'd be able to walk around with this little crown on their head and tell people what to do. Very bizarre, I'm sure. So that's a crowd.
Dean,
Okay, it just
Dean, let me jump in. You mentioned Samaria and where the whole idea of the crown came from. Now, I have a lot of friends, and I know you do too. They'll follow me up to a certain point, but when I take it back, and you and I have talked about this, and I've read as much as I could about Sumeria, the Anunnaki. People, when we start talking about that, will tune out. They'll go away because they think you're really freaking crazy.
Do what you want to do. You live in slavery and la 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 la. That's fine.
Isn't it?
King Sargon, Google it. It's the first king. Just Google it. It's not that hard, people. So if you're all freaked out about it, just Google it. King Sargon, first world king, Samaria, just happens to be. Anyway, is it a coincidence? I don't know. But all I know is people have been talking about Jeremiah Sitchin and David Icke, and a lot of other people have been talking about this other thing where it's the Anunnaki and there's Sumerian clay tablets, and first oldest language that we know of. It's a cuneiform language, and being translated and saying things like, yeah, they forced us into agriculture. They came here on spaceships from planet Nibiru because their ozone was failing. They had to mine gold. And then you tie that together with what happened in South Africa with the Torrids and the gold mining, and you tie that in, and then they're talking about on these tablets again, breeding humans to be slaves. And you go, oh, is that white people? Maybe that's what I kind of think. White people seem very subservient to me, mostly, and they want to climb the ladder. But anyway, I don't know. It's just
so, Dean. What we're talking about here are these bloodlines, correct?
Yeah, it's a bloodline. Yeah,
bloodlines, and we can trace them throughout history.
King Marduk was kind of next, and then he went to India to the east. And funny how agriculture came to the earth everywhere at the same time, 8,500 years ago. So did domestication of animals, all at the same time everywhere. Why? How? It just happened at the same time the Anunnaki came here, and according to the tablets, 8,500 years ago. Just a coincidence, I suppose. All these temples pop up, like Tikal, like Chichen Itza, like Angkor Wat in Cambodia, all over and everywhere. And these huge, Egyptian, whatever, and all at the same time. And why? And city states for the god kings. The god kings, who were they? Well, they were the Anunnaki, and they were lazy. They stole the land. They made the people build a nice place for them, and then they made the people grow food for them, forced them into agriculture and all this stuff. And they colonized the earth. And this is the slavery that we still suffer. And now these people have moved now to Egypt and became the pharaohs, and they became the Babylonians who did the Talmud, and became the Khazarians, and became the Rothschilds and the Eastern European, Ashkenazi Jews. And then they became the bankers to the crown, other crown people who were bloodlined. And, 15th century, you had a huge thing in Normandy where before William the Conqueror went into England, there was this interbreeding thing with the bloodlines all over. The Rala bloodline, the Vikings, the Vichy bloodline. There's one in France, the Hohenzollern bloodline, the Romanov bloodline in Russia are the bloodlines that the revolution in Russia at least got rid of. Some would argue that the Kropotkin, White Hand, Mensheviks, if they'd have won, maybe it'd have been better. I kind of think that might be true. Who were the Bolsheviks? Why were they funded by, seemingly the bankers? So there's a lot of things going on in Russia. But one thing about Russia, they did get rid of the bloodline, just like America did, officially anyway. And so we're both countries that we see. That's the thing. We have a lot in common. We should be the best of friends. Russia and the United States should be the best friends. And that's the one thing, at least, that I give Trump a little credit for, because I don't give him credit for much. But at least he's, I think, trying to be friends with Russia. Whereas most people in this country have been brainwashed by Russiagate mainly lately.
Yeah.
A terrible thing. But yeah, and especially progressives. And that's the sad thing is, even though Putin to me is a leftist progressive, it's like somehow the progressives here in America hate him. only because they've been lied to and told, just, lied to. It's just, but maybe that'll change. Maybe that's changed. I don't know. But all I know is, it does seem there's a, while the Iranians are battling us, the Russians are battling Ukraine, and it's tied together too, more than people think. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I appreciated what you said about Russia and the United States. I really hadn't even thought about that. Both countries
True.
got rid of the bloodlines.
It's true, man. That's why NATO is. That's why if you look at now, like who's really behind Ukraine, it's more Europeans than the U.S. I mean, they're really pushing it, right? And so that's the city of London, and they're desperate to keep us divided. They have to keep Russia and the U.S. They have to keep us enemies, because if we ever were friends, we could just throw the bloodline, the European castle people over the over into the sea and see their assets, and that's the end of it. There's no more debt for any of us in the world, and we're all free. And then we go solar, and we do free land and food, and everything's possible, but we got to get rid of these parasites, these interstellar.
All right, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. I promise. I don't care how long this show goes. We're gonna get to that.
There you go.
One of the interesting things is you've talked about many times how these bloodlines and also other really powerful financial people have intermarried. And I don't know whether you know this or not, but there's an English woman who has been an expert and researched the Romanovs. Her latest book is about King Charles. His great-great-grandfather was a Romanov.
There you go.
So he's connected to that.
Well, it's literally one family. People don't understand, like Fritz Springer, 7 bloodlines of the Illuminati, Gary Wayne, 13 bloodlines of no. You guys are both wrong. Sorry. It's one bloodline now.
So let me ask you this.
They're all intermarried.
Let me ask you this. I have an American friend living in Thailand, and he's been in China, and he's been very much into meditation and Chinese type of meditation. And what he said to me was, what you're talking about doesn't really exist in China. Does it exist in China, the bloodlines?
Well, I know that the Li family is still the wealthiest family, Chinese family. And they were the Tang dynasty. They ran the Tang dynasty. The Li is the spelling, but you'll see it change too. You'll see Lee. Like Bruce Lee was probably part of that bloodline. Sure. How do you get famous? Oh, you're part of the bloodline. A lot of the Hollywood actors and actresses are from bloodline, families. That's why they're there. It's like, oh, you're a loser, but you're from our bloodline, so go give them an acting job and brainwash the people. And
Right.
no, really, I'm not kidding. And like that's why Anderson Cooper, he's a Vanderbilt. I mean, the media people are a lot of them are bloodline people. People would be surprised. Politicians, of course, but maybe less so than in other things like media. And it's because media is so important. To brainwash people, you have to. So the bloodline is just everywhere. But you'll see the Khan family right now, like coming out of the closet, the KHAN. So the Khans now run Nepal. They did the fake Gen Z protests in Nepal recently, which were all CIA, because Nepal was cozying up to the Chinese, and they had kind of a Maoist government. They actually assassinated a prince back in, you may remember this, back in 2000, and I don't know if it was 2012. And the Maoists came to power, and they deposed the Khan. It's a Khan family that's the monarchy in Nepal, and it's the Khan family that's the monarchy in Afghanistan. King Zaire Shah, the Shah, Pahlavi, the Shahs are Khans. So the Shah of Iran, that's the Khan bloodline as well, KHAN. So it's the Pakistanis. Who was their most recent prime minister? His name was something Khan. The mayor of London right now is a Khan, KHAN. Very powerful, very, very. Aga Khan Foundation is who trains up all the Islamists, whether it's Al Qaeda or Mujahideen or ISIS or Daesh or whatever. This is all funded through the Aga Khan Foundation by the Saudis through their madrasa school systems. And the Aga Khan, they're into racehorses big time. Their castle in France is like right down the road from the Rothschild estate. And it's interesting, right? So this all one big happy family. The Rothschilds were part of that Ashkenazi bunch that came from Khazaria that the Russians had to kick their ass over and over because they kept kidnapping children and women, trafficking and horrible people. And that was the Baccarats. And before that, and the Baccarats ran the Silk Road on this side of it, and the Li family in China ran the other side of the Silk Road, and that was all just dirty trafficking stuff mostly too. And the Khazars are in the middle of that, and where Ukraine's at right now, interestingly. And it's almost like they want to turn that back into old Khazaria. They want to turn Israel back into the old Mount Zion, where the tribe of Dan and the Canaanites ruled it. See, it's a very spiritual battle here, as you know. So the Iranians, to me, are on God's side. It's just like quite simple, and it's a good and evil thing right now. You need to pick your side. And you need to pick it right now because there's no middle ground anymore. Sorry, you can't sit there and go, "Oh no, maybe the Iranians are part of the cabal." No, it's just because you're it's part of my French, a fucking pussy that can't stand up to your own fucking government. You're a coward.
All right, we're going to come to that. You're going to set me off. You're going to set me off about that.
Had it
But
with that bullshit.
I have too. But Dean, I got to keep you focused on this. We were talking about these bloodlines, okay? And seriously, is King Charles? Is he in control of anything? Is he just a figurehead? Any of the other kings that still exist of these bloodlines? What have? I mean, there's a pyramid of power.
Yeah, well, King Charles is the biggest landowner in the world. So yeah, it's more than a figurehead. When you own the most land in the world, it's a lot of power. I mean, I remember being in New Zealand and we go to these national parks and everybody's like, "Oh, you have to visit New Zealand, all the national parks." So we go there and all the national parks are clear cut already. And it says Crown Corporation on the signs right there. And then they turn them into national parks after they clear cut them. And they're everywhere. And the Commonwealth is everywhere, 77 countries.
Okay,
That's all controlled officially by King Charles. That's a lot. So no,
yeah,
he's more of a figurehead.
but
Now,
Dean,
who's behind the money shuffle, and is it Charlie? And is his hands on? No, it's the city. That's where it goes, the City of London. But it's still the Crown Corporation, City of London.
but do you really think this? I think he's a numbskull.
Privy Council. He's got Privy Council. Yeah, no, of course. Of course, he's in that way.
I mean, I understand that he owns.
He don't do nothing. He don't manage nothing. See, that's the whole thing with the crown. When you have a crown on your head, there's 33 vertebrae in our back. This is a fact, and this is where the Masons get their 33rd degree Scottish Freemason levels in the vertebrae. So the top one's the Atlas, and then on top of that sits the head. So to them, that's the Illuminati. The Illuminati is the head that sort of rides the rest of society's back like a fucking donkey, it exploits them, sucks them dry. And then up here is this person who just does absolutely jack shit. Doesn't even have to be a head anymore. It's just a crown, just a fucking crown. Idle rich, eat lobster every night, drink whiskey every morning, fuck little girls and boys, I suppose, by 2:00. No, it's horrible. These are demonic, perverted, nasty people. And does he control anything? He doesn't have to. It's just beyond that. The crown is so entitled, and he's part of that. And so, yeah, he lives in a castle on the Dole. He lives in the castle on the Dole, and it's so ridiculous. It's just so. This is the first thing that people need to do everywhere. Is just if you live in a place where there's a monarchy, you need to get rid of it, okay? And help us who already did, like Regis over there in Russia and me over here in America. And so if you're living in European country, it's just ridiculous. Or if a Canadian watching this or Australian, you're all part of the Commonwealth. You need to get out of it. You need to get rid of the Privy Council, the Governor General, all the stuff that controls you. Mark Carney, God, it's just unbelievable. He's the Bank of England governor, and now he's the Prime Minister of Canada. Next week, he's the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Is anybody going to ask a question about how that can happen? Maybe you should.
All right, Dean. We're talking about the monarchy, and here in the Western world, King Charles, the monarchy in England, they're the biggest. They were the largest colonial empire ever, and they're still. I think they still control the United States, and so it's not the United States that's a colonial power. It's still, I think, the monarchy.
Yeah.
But we got to transition to because I need you to help me understand. I, I don't think that King Charles has much to do with anything that's in the world. But you and I have talked about the City of London and the Bank of London.
Mhm.
It's not. It's an incorporated company or whatever you want to call it, different than the Crown. What's the connection, and how? Correct me if I'm wrong. How are they really the ones in control of the levers today?
Yeah, it kind of started, the whole Magna Carta thing was huge because the Magna Carta brought in the Ashkenazi Jewish bankers, brought in the aristocracy, landholders, gentry with the crown, and they started the fascist thing where they circled the wagons and started interbreeding incessantly. And like I said, you can't tell the difference anymore. So between the Crown Corporation and the City of London, there's really not a dime's worth of difference. I mean, in other words, I mean the Freemasons. That's why the Freemasons are prominent in the City of London. The Freemasons are sworn to fealty towards the monarchy, the bloodline, and that's just what they do, man. The Freemasons are loyal to the bloodline. They're the minions, along with the Knights Templar and the Muslim Brotherhood, the Kabbalists, the Satanic people, the Illuminati. There's so many minions to these people because they got so much money. They pass out checks, they write checks, and people bow down to them at so many levels in society everywhere. So they are the mafia. These people are the. There's no difference. The bloodline is the mafia. That's who runs all the bad things. The bloodline, and they run the official banks. They run the legal opium and the illegal opium. They run everything. They're opium. They're an opium monopoly more than anything else because there's so much money in that, and an arms monopoly. And of course, that's the subtitle of my book. It's big oil and their bankers in the Persian Gulf, four horsemen, eight families, and their global intelligence, narcotics, and terror network. And so that's the big money, the oil, the drugs, the guns. It just is. It's the big money. It still is. And now the 5G is coming in and the whole, they're trying to make the fourth industrial revolution, the data centers, and they're trying to make this the next big money. And as of now it is, but it's all, and the same people control it. SoftBank is a big key player in their bloodline bank, Saudi, mostly owned by the Saudis in Japan. They control so much of that tech, Silicon Valley stuff. And it's in my second to last book, more so Nephilim Crown 5G Apocalypse. I talk about the connections between the tech companies and the families, and how it's all coming down. And it is satanic. AI is synonymous, to me anyway, with Lucifer or fallen angels or Nephilim or Anunnaki because it's fake. It's not real. It's not from here. It's artificial intelligence. That's why it's not real. So don't trust it ever, because it's not real. Fake intelligence. Real intelligence is required here, not fake intelligence in this world. If you live with fake intelligence, you're going to wreck your car. You're going to turn the wrong way. You're going to lose your brain, because you're not using a muscle in your body that God gave you. All kinds of things. All kinds of things wrong with this picture, and it's all satanic in the end because it's telling us that basically God is dead and we're all, it's not that AI is going to take our jobs and stuff. That's not the big danger. The danger to me is that we will become machines. Like we'll become AI. It's not going to take our job. Who cares? We're going to become cold, no empathy, no compassion, no love in our hearts, no spirit, no, just all shut down because we're all just plugged into the electronic, suit all the time. We can't even sort things out. We can't make. I've noticed people can't make decisions now. Their minds are literally being fractured by, too much information. Too much
Yeah,
information.
I'm glad you
Top
went.
future shock.
I'm glad.
That's what
I'm
the book.
glad you went there. I'm glad you went there because, uh, you mentioned a couple of things. You called it a spiritual battle. Absolutely, it is, and it's a battle to preserve what's left of our humanity. What you're
Right.
talking about, AI, technocracy, all of this stuff, robotics, uh, really, it's about destroying who we are as human beings,
Yeah.
taking away everything you just talked about.
That's
love,
what it's
compassion, peace,
that's
empathy.
dangerous. Yeah.
And I think people have to, they got to begin to understand what the hell really is going on. It is a satanic battle for our souls, for our minds, for our basic humanity. I'm so glad you brought that out.
Yeah.
Now,
You too, man.
Dean,
Yeah.
um, we're going to have to continue these discussions, Dean. I got to have you back, honest to God, on
Yeah.
a regular basis, because
I know.
some people are thinking that we are just downright effing crazy. We're out of our minds. Nobody's
Yeah.
talking about this stuff. Nobody. I get laughed at when I bring it up with people. Okay. Oh yeah,
That's my
you know.
life. You just
Yeah, Twilight Zone, you know.
But I
Uh,
am fucking crazy. So what? I love it. They think I'm crazy because I am crazy. So, whatever. I don't care. I don't care what people think of me, man. It's like God and me. That's all. I don't think of other
uh,
things like what people think of me. It's so stupid. Because
yeah,
why? Why do you care what people think of you, man? As long as you're pleasing the powerful good force in the universe, to me, on that good red road is what the Lakota call it. Just as long as you're staying on that good red road, then win, lose or draw, it's going to be okay, man. And you can go ahead and be happy. You don't have to hang your head. You don't have to be all glum about the state of the world. And I'm not. I'm not. It's just I don't know. People don't understand a lot of things, man, about reality. And life is so much better when you acknowledge reality. You acknowledge what actually is going on, and you be a big boy and a big girl, and you put your big boy and big girl pants on and admit that there is this vast conspiracy that's controlling us, and it's all documented. So many people
let,
have done it,
let me
and
ask you
and,
this.
and it's time to get with it, people, and grow a pair.
Let
Because
me ask you this. You've been very much influenced by the Sioux, Native American Indians. You've grown up in that culture. Um, I have to ask you this. Uh, do you believe in a great spirit? Do you believe in something called God? Do you believe in something called a greater goodness? How,
yeah,
what are your thoughts
absolutely.
about that? Because, people listening right now would say, this guy's a freaking pagan. You know, he, but he's talking about a spiritual war and a war against our humanity.
No, man,
I
I'm
think
fighting
what
against
we're,
the pagans, man. I'm fighting against the pagans, man. Like again, they don't understand because they think pagans and Indians are the same thing. Pagans are Romans. Pagans are the people that killed Jesus. Pagans are the kings and queens, and they're not. I'm not a pagan. I'm an animist, and it's a way different deal. And I have an understanding of reality, natural world reality, and an understanding of that I'm related to my ancestors, related to all the living creatures of this earth, and it's all about my relationship to the living creatures of this earth and the earth itself, and to the powerful force that created it. And Wakan Tanka is what the Lakota call it, and it means the great mystery. It's as good of a phrase as I know of. So I'm not saying what it is and what it isn't. I have no fucking idea, Regis. I'm a stupid human being, man. Have some humility, people. How about that? How about people just have some? Okay, so that's what the Indians mainly taught me. Do that. You just do that. Just think about that translation, the great mystery. It's like we're not the experts. Lakota didn't go around telling everybody they were experts and they were so much smarter than the next tribe and they had all the answers to the whole universe. And this is what white people do. They go around telling people they have all the answers to this and all the answers to that, and they're so smart. And it doesn't matter. I don't. It doesn't matter that they love each other anymore or that they have a relationship. They're just the smartest person in the fucking room, man. That's what matters. And that's what it feels like, kind of sometimes in this culture right now. Because again, we're putting the value of intellect ahead of the value of the spiritual, the heart, the chakra, and the love and the vibe, man. The information. Who cares if you know the exact fucking amounts of streets in Minneapolis? I don't give a fuck. I just care that you're my brother and sister, that you're giving me the good vibes and you're supporting me and that I'm supporting you and that we're in this together. It's a
yeah,
whole different understanding of reality, okay, that I'm talking about here. And the pagan way is the numbers way. And this other way is the way of humility and just sinking in and going, yeah, I ain't very much, but I'm a whole lot more than nothing. Lakota proverb. I'm not
you
much.
know,
I'm a whole lot more
I
than nothing.
I think the Native Americans and the original people had it figured out. Uh, I know you agree with that. When you talk about the great mystery, or when they talk about the creator, whatever it is, this is it's not religion. It's more what I would call today spirituality. You said it was a spiritual battle. Well, for me, religion does not connect you with the great mystery.
No.
Uh, and the great mystery is a spiritual thing. And I want you to comment on that because I know where you're going to come from.
It's
It's a
scientific, okay? It's the scientific method. I could also call it the scientific method just as easily as if you want to call it spirituality, that's fine. But I could just as easily call it the scientific method because it's just inference, observation, conclusion. Okay, so I'm a Lakota. I'm living on the prairie. I go, hey, there's some buffalo. Observation, a buffalo. Inference. Maybe I could feed myself with some meat from that buffalo. Conclusion. I better appreciate that buffalo because next time I want that buffalo to come back into my hunting area so I can have some more good meat to eat. So I have to have a relationship with that buffalo that allows him and lets him know, hey, I'm sorry I'm eating your meat, man. I'm sorry I have to kill you to eat you, man. You're my brother. I really am. But it is this relationship. And see, every hunter knows that. I was a hunter. And now I am a hunter, I guess, but I used to hunt a lot when I was young. You have to have that relationship with the game, then the game will come to you. And this is what white people don't understand, man. They don't understand. There's so many things they don't understand. They're living in fear and they don't never have that relationship. They don't think they can talk to that deer that they're hunting. And it's just like, it's a whole different, I'm telling you, it's a whole different way of looking at things. But it has nothing to do with any preconceived religion or organized religion or preconceived crown notion or preconceived royal sciences, society, science thing like the Big Bang or like the particle physics lie or like the basic, the survival of the fittest lie, and all these lies. It has nothing to do with any of that. You have to erase all that from your brain. It's been like imprinted on your brain since you were little because the textbooks and even in kindergarten and even the toys your mom gave you when you were little. And man, it's so imprinted on us, right? And the British are so small and they have to narrate all the programs. And, wow. So it's so yeah, it's heavy, man. You got to erase all that and you got to just inference, observation, conclusion. That's the indigenous way. That's the animistic way. You can call it science or you can call it spirituality. I don't care. I don't think anybody does. It's
Yeah,
just an
I really
appreciation
appreciate.
of life and understanding how it really works. And that if you don't appreciate it, you're going to have a shitty life, man. If you do appreciate it, you'll have a good one. It's instant karma or not. It's so simple. So simple. Action and
I
reaction.
love,
So many ways to put it, but so simple.
I
Energy.
love, I love the way you put it. Uh, I believe in it's a, understanding the relationship that we have with each other, with Mother Earth, with the universe, wherever it goes. Um, and so I really think that's what it's really all about. What we're fighting is this spiritual battle against very powerful satanic forces. Now,
Okay.
I promised you we'd get back to uh, what do we have to do, people? Come on, Dean. Let's end on a big boom. What do we have to do?
Okay. Which means in Lakota means onward into battle. That's what we have to do. So yeah, strap in, get ready, and time is now. And pick the side of good, and we will vanquish evil from the earth. We can do it. It's uh, it's true. The good people are going to start winning now. I know it's hard to believe, but that's what's going to happen. And so now you have to either you're good. If you're good people, you're going to start winning. If your heart is dark, you're going to have a tough life from here on out. So you better straighten up and fly right because that's where time we're in right now. And I'm joyful at this time. We just believe it or not. It's great to be
So
with you.
I'm not going to let you go. Why are you
I
joyful?
got to get going here pretty soon. But
Looking
yeah,
at all the shit that's going
I know.
on everywhere. I mean, it's depressing. But why?
No, I
How
know.
can you be? How can you be joyful?
Because I know it has to happen, and I know in the end, the Epstein class is going down, and all the writings on the wall, and it's desperation, and it's this whole war is a diversion from it, and it's not going away, and it's not going away, and it's desperation. So finally, I think the turning point has happened, and yeah, it's just that I really think the Iranians, it's going to be a different world. I mean, the Gulf, there's so many things we haven't even talked about, but just to get into it, you have to do another time. But Gulf Cooperation Council is finished. There's those countries. Dubai as a money laundering center is finished. There's so many things that we didn't even talk about, but so many good things have happened. That whole arrangement where you put U.S. bases in your country and you give them cheap oil to prop up a king, one family like the Al Thani family in Qatar, or the El Khalifa family in Bahrain, or the El Sabah family in Kuwait. These single family monarchies, bloodline related, yes, to the European bloodline too. That's why they look kind of white. And yeah, just put them in power. Well, that's done. Now having a U.S. base on your territory is a liability in that region.
So,
So
Dean,
oh, there's so many good things. I mean, it's below the surface. Yeah, of course, it looks like Armageddon, and of course, it is Armageddon. Actually, well, not Armageddon, but apocalypse. The word apocalypse actually means this kind of great awakening. So it can be, people think it's just catastrophic, but it's actually meaning it's a kind of awakening or remembering, which is my book, my last book. So I'm hoping it's the latter. Yeah, that we're that we're remembering, and that people remember what it's like to be free.
all
And
right,
because
Dean,
we were at one time.
I'm going to schedule another show early next week with you. We're going to dig down deeper where you want to go, where we have to go to understand what's
Yep.
really happening. And then we'll talk about your last book, The Great Remembering. Uh, and the question is the great remembering of what? Uh, and I think the answer to that question is who we really are and why we have to fight for it. Dean, thanks so much.